Call the meeting to order. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. Councilmember Kelly is absent. Have the agenda in front of you. Is there any changes or to the agenda?
No.
Council? Okay, do I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Heidi,
Second.
second by Dave. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4 in favor, none against. Received the minutes of the September 16th, 2015 regular meeting and the September 30th, 2015 special meeting. Is there any corrections or changes to either one of those meetings? I do have just a typo at the bottom of page 1 on the September 16th meeting. It, down where in that paragraph where Representative Anderson stated, it's that last sentence, it was noted, should be that the piece of property is, or a piece of property is owned by the state, instead of that. That's the only thing I seen. That was just,
I think they're switched around for me. I was absent on the September 30th one, I believe, and the September 16th one I was here.
September 16th shows you're absent.
But I was here.
You are.
But the 30th I was not.
Right.
But I was.
Yeah. That's great. Okay. Any other changes? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of September 16th, 2015 and September 30th, 2015 with those changes?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Dave, second.
I'll second.
Second by Heidi. Any other questions, changes? Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4 in favor, none against. Now is our public open forum. This is for anyone that would like to speak to the council other than our public hearings that we've got later on. If there's anyone here that would like to speak to the council. Is there anyone here that would like to speak to the council? One more time, is there anyone here that would like to speak to the council? Seeing no one, our public open forum is now closed. We will then now move on to our public hearings. I will recess the normal public hearing and now open, our normal council meeting and open our public hearing. We have 3 public hearings tonight. First will be the proposed Center Street assessment. The second is the proposed assessments for unpaid utility and city service charges. And the third will be the liquor license revocation. I will read the rules of the public hearing once to cover all 3 of those public hearings. This public hearing, in accordance with the official mailed and public notice, is in the matter of proposed Center Street assessment, proposed assessments for unpaid utility and city service charges, liquor license revocation, is now in session. It is the city's intention that everyone be heard on the subject now before us. Accomplishment of this requires cooperation of all concerned. A sign-up sheet is located on the table in the back of the council chambers. Please sign in if you are here for the public hearing. First of all, we'll have staff presentation followed by questions of staff. Then we will open it to the public. Those who favor the request will be heard first, and those who oppose the request will be heard last. If you wish to be heard, raise your hand. When recognized by the mayor, stand and state your name and address. State your position and comments. A limit of 3 minutes per person is permitted. No one will be allowed to speak a second time until everyone has had a first chance to speak. Address all statements and questions to the mayor. The mayor will then refer any questions that are appropriate to be answered to the proper staff person. While others are speaking, listen to what is being said to avoid repetition. Do not interrupt others by speaking while they have the floor. And after the closure of the public hearing, the City Council will deliberate and take action as appropriate. Members of the audience do not make additional comments or participate in the City Council's discussion. With that, we will start now with the proposed Center Street assessment. Keith?
Okay, thank you, Mayor. The Center Street project is coming to a close. Most of the construction is now complete on that project, so therefore it's time to go forward with our assessment hearings. What we've done is all the costs of the project thus far, which are the majority, are known, and those are included in the costs. Those items that are remaining are estimated and are included as part of these costs. So, the Center Street reconstruction assessment. This project, just as a reminder for everyone, is to reconstruct Center Street to an urban section roadway, and it included a pond for some abatement of actual pipe costs, storm sewer pipe costs. So just to show you where the project is located, it's between 12th Street South and Beltline. Recall of our urban section, just a 36-foot wide street with curb and gutter through there, small boulevards through the project area where we have our storm sewer and our street is shown through here. Our storm sewer pond, this is the one that was built in between the John Deere and Fleet Supply, which would be to the north. These were our initial cost estimates for the project, about $422,000 for estimated project costs. These are where the project came in. You can see on the far left are the total estimated construction costs, just short of $387,000. You'll see below is line items for all of the estimated final numbers for all of what we call indirect costs. Project development, design, construction, assessments, and admin, easements, those kinds of things, for a total of about $534,500. The breakdown to the right are the street costs. The street costs be $232,000, storm sewer costs $262,383, and then the 9-ton credit for the roadway is shown separately, and that's an estimate of $39,812. So the streets are about 43.5% of the total cost of the project, storm sewer 49, and the 9-ton road credit would be the 7. So if you add the 7 back into the streets, essentially it's about half and half between the street costs and the storm sewer costs of the overall project. These are the preliminary assessments that were out. You can see they range from about $1,700 at the smallest parcel. That is an Ag Power, which is John Deere out there. There are 2 parcels for those, so that's the smallest, but ranges from $21,000 up to, I think the largest is $113,000 were the preliminary assessments. The final assessments, and hopefully those who are here, there were sheets on the back, and I think you were sent sheets as well. The final assessments are shown here. They range from that $1,600 up to $107,900 for, and that would be Fleet Supply, which is the largest. I'm sorry, the City of Sauk Center actually is the largest at the bottom, $160,000. Non-city is the $107,000. CPS is $118,000 for those. So those are the final assessments for those projects. Primarily, the project went over on storm sewer. You might recall when we went through and discussed the bidding the project, it was approximately a little over $90,000 over the original estimate, which is why when you add your indirect costs into there, that's pretty much what we're over in a total. It's about $130,000 over as a total project cost. And those are kind of where those dollars came from when the project was bid. There are several questions that we have before the council, and I'll turn us back to the mayor of it here in a second, but this is in your packet, but I'll itemize these and we can decide whether you wish to have some discussion staff before we have public comments, or if you just want to go right to the public comments. But one of the questions is the corner lot. Mr. Mosman, his lot is zoned RC, which is residential commercial. Now, our assessment policies are either residential or commercial, not both. So the question would be, and the difference would be whether Mr. Mosman would receive 150-foot side yard credit as being residential or not. Like I said, our assessment policy doesn't match when we have both land uses in the, both in one zoning district. So that's a question for the council for there. That's about a $15,000 number difference. And then with that would be, if we choose to say, let's do the credit, that should apply here. Should those dollars go back into the overall project and get redistributed for street costs? That would be typically what we would do when we have credits. Those dollars essentially we essentially have smaller front footages for to spread those costs over. So the cost per foot goes up. So that's a question, or whether that amount goes essentially to the city. Those could be two options for that. With fleet supply, the one question would be there's a stormwater easement that was purchased there, is about $25,000 was for the easement. Whether that cost should be removed from the overall assessments. Currently, those dollars are all included in the assessment dollars that you saw before you. And then kind of lastly is whether the council wishes to perhaps go back and assess based upon the preliminary assessment numbers versus the final. And those are within your perusal to do. It's something I don't believe have done recently, but that would be within your ability to make those decisions. So those are several questions that we have for you, and certainly they have bearings. I'm sure they probably have bearings on those in the audience to understand where their assessments will be. So we need some discussion and clarification from the council as to how you want to go about those particular issues. So with that, I will turn it back to the mayor.
Okay, thank you, Keith. What's the council's wishes? Would you want to move on with public input, or would you want to discuss the questions that Keith just brought up as far as we
Public input.
put public input?
Okay.
With that, we will move on to, is there anyone in the council chambers that would like clarification or speak in favor of the assessments? Is there anyone here that would like to speak in favor? Anyone that would like to speak in favor? Seeing no one, is there anyone here that needs clarification or would like to speak against the assessments?
Just to bring up a note there, Dwayne Massman, 1170 Center Street. Quite a few years ago, 12th Street was redone, and I paid full assessments on that side, and at that time it was residential. And I feel it would be fair if I only paid the 50 feet and all going the other way, being I already paid full assessments. That's my statement.
Okay, thank you, Dwayne. Is there anyone else that would like to speak against the assessments? Go ahead.
Bob Thompson from Fleet Supply. When I originally signed off on this ditch arrangement with Vicky itself over there, first of all, there was the tiling went halfway itself over there, and originally when I was here in October, where it was talked about over that the tiling would run, at least to my understanding, to the end, but anyhow, the tiling was extended now, so it's forth in the agreement that I signed off on. Then the second thing itself, where I signed off on that a ditch and pond property along with what the assessed value was going to be that I was going to get paid for. And thirdly, then I signed off on it saying that when you go back to where the original amount, which my portion, which was 85,000 plus, that would be my portion of the storm sewer and the road, even though I still feel that to this point, anyhow, especially when the road becomes a different proposition itself over, but when you look at the sewer, or not sewer, and the drainage end itself over there, well, I've been out there 50 years and my ditch has been adequate for what drainage we've always needed itself over, so I never felt that, number one, even though I'm participating in it, that I didn't benefit from it itself over. But needless to say, itself over is that it was my understanding itself over then that I would agree to pay the 85,000 plus for that assessment itself over here, but in the final analysis itself over, it comes back over there where it's approximately 20% more now. And then again over, I question where did the 20% come from over, who made a bad deal, or what was the arrangement itself over there, where 9 times out of 10 itself, these bids probably come in lower than, rather than higher itself over there. And I just feel that my arrangement itself over there that I originally signed off on over is the one that I would want to stick to.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Keith, you want to explain the cost overruns or why it was increased? From what my understanding, most of it's on the storm.
Yeah, most of it's on the storm, Mayor and Council. The costs, as we saw when the bids were tallied, the cost did come over. And Mr. Homchick is right. Normally, 9 times out of 10, they do come in under. Unfortunately, now and then they do come in over. In this particular case, they did. It was a later bid, if you recall, which may have some bearing on that. Typically, we may see some higher numbers than we originally had planned to be a little earlier in the year, but things dragged out to get the project approved. So that may have a bearing on it, but yes, that's essentially if you take it was around 90, I can't remember the exact, it was over 90,000, somewhere between 90, 100,000 was over the original bid, the original estimate. And if you take that, include the indirect percentages thereof, we're pretty much exactly where we are in terms of the total over for a total project cost. So I guess in some ways you say the good news is we kept the project where it was, and we even added a couple of small change orders to it, but we had enough be able to save some dollars on some other items that the total kind of stayed the same. So we didn't go up more or anything than the bid, but that's really where the increase was from the very beginning at the bid level.
Okay. Is there anyone else that would like to speak against? Is there anyone else that would like to speak against? Last time, anyone that would like to speak against? Hearing none. With that, Council, have any questions before we move on? This is an action item later on tonight, so we will be taking action and commenting on that at that time. Hearing none, then we'll move on to our next public hearing, which would be proposed assessments for unpaid utility and city service charges.
Okay, as you recall, at your September 16th meeting, you called for a hearing to be held this evening, and this is for the assessments for unpaid utility and city service charges. On your desk tonight, it's actually broke into two different roles because the part for the demolition of the hazardous buildings is actually a 5-year assessment, and the unpaid, like lot maintenance and utility bills, is a 1-year. So that's why they're broke down, but it's the exact same numbers, it's just on two different resolutions. Most of the service charges are lot maintenance, meaning mowing people's yards. And then we do have a delinquent utility bill that is being put on there by the public utility. And each of those, of course, include that administrative fee of $100 that every year you wrestle with whether we should waive that if they come and pay before we certify to the county. I would point out there's one on the hazardous building list, the one that is the Zion Lutheran Church. They purchased the property from Richard Boyer, and about 7 months ago, Mr. Boyer was before you requesting that that amount be waived. You declined to waive it at that time and said that, you know, he had the opportunity to come and speak tonight at the public hearing, and we did call them and made sure they were aware of this meeting tonight, but I don't see that he is here. And so it is my understanding that that particular one, during the closing, they've made some arrangements. So if the assessment stays and certified, I think the church will be made whole. So I just wanted you to be aware of that. Other than that, pretty straightforward, nothing unusual here at all. So does anybody have any questions?
Questions? It's basically what we go through all the time, every year. Is there anyone here that would like to speak in favor or against the charges? Is there anyone here that would like to speak in favor or against the service charges? Is there anyone here that would like to speak in favor or against the service charges? Seeing none, with that, unless council has any questions or comments, we will move on to our next public hearing, which is the liquor license revocation. Whenever you're ready.
Okay. This is the public hearing that is to be consider the revocation of the liquor license for Catherine Nelson at the Red Carpet. The reason for the proposed revocation is due to the cancellation of insurance. And as you have in your packet, City Code Section 113-.13 states that cancellation or termination shall be grounds for revocation, but that we first have to allow them an opportunity to be heard and a public hearing before you would take such action. We have been notified that the insurance has been lapsed as of mid-August, and so we've made several attempts to help them secure adequate insurance for their liquor liability. That's the part of the insurance that we're talking about. Today we received a phone call that they had secured insurance and they would bring it in, a certificate. We did not receive it. They also stated they would bring one here tonight to the meeting, and I haven't seen anybody yet. So City Council needs to think about that. How do they want to handle? We have not had to cancel a license due to revocation of insurance before, and you certainly want to give the owner due process. So you have a couple opportunities. You know, you can revoke the license. You can say it's done. They have to reapply if they want to reestablish it. You can just suspend it and say no operation until you have insurance in place, or you can give them additional time to find the insurance and they would keep operating during that period of time. So those will be your three options that you'll have to take action on later. But do you have any questions regarding the public portion of it?
Questions?
Well, you mentioned they keep operating during that time.
You have the option of allowing that to give them additional time and they can stay operating during that time, or you can suspend it that you cannot operate during that time, or you can just revoke it.
Who would cover any catastrophic or suits brought against them?
That would be them.
Okay.
They would just not have insurance to cover it, so.
Okay.
In that case, though, is there any way that the city could possibly have a suit filed against them for allowing them to operate without that license?
We called down to the state and they said that as long as they're on notice, and we know that they know that they're on notice, that the city has some immunity for that, but the state doesn't look real kindly on people operating without insurance. But they're really concerned about giving them due process. So.
Okay. Any other questions? If not, I'll move on to public input. Is there anyone here that would like to speak in favor or against the revocation process for the liquor license? Is there anyone here that would like to speak in favor or against? Is there anyone here that would like to speak in favor or against? Seeing no one, unless council has questions or comments, I will close the public hearing and reconvene the normal council meeting. We will have action on all three of those public hearings later tonight. We will then move on to reports and presentations, the park board report.
Okay, the park board met in regular session, which was last night, October 6th. They had several items on their agenda. They received the annual summer rec report from Sauk Center, the school community ed program. They do have some recommended changes to the fee schedule. The council will take action on that in December. They are recommending the purchase of a John Deere 1600 series lawnmower. That's later on the agenda. Recommending appointment of winter seasonal employees. They did receive information on their outstanding grants for the splash pad. We're wrapping those up. They're discussing picnic table replacement for the park system. They're recommending removal and donation of the west outdoor rink, recommend a pay range for returning campground attendant for 2016, and they received the park shelter and ball field annual rental report. So they had several items on their agenda. If you have any questions on anything specific, otherwise we do have action items, 3 of them action items later this evening.
Questions? Comments? Okay. Thank you. EDA report.
The EDA met today at noon in their regular session. We did learn that Dennis Heinen will no longer be the chamber rep beginning in 2016 because he won't be on the chamber board any longer. We received the report from Sauk Center Opportunities. NASA is now operating in their new building in the industrial park. We discussed the implementation of the University of Minnesota survey that we are doing in conjunction with the Chamber of Commerce, so we're hoping anybody that gets asked to survey will participate. We met with Heidi Pepper of SEH on the planning grant application timeline for the racetrack redevelopment, and we also talked about the railroad property. If you've been by there, you notice that demolition is occurring as we speak, and those buildings are coming down. And we were talking about the survey and the platting of the information center so we can establish all the property boundaries, and that would be down at the interpretive center, information center. I don't know what you want to discuss there. We talked about the personal property tax on the exempt properties that are leased to farmers, and we have 4 of those in the city, and the one related to the EDA would be the Unger property that we leased to Cyril Felling. That will now be subject to personal property tax, so that'll have an impact on our rental agreement with him. And also they're looking at options for revenue bond refinancing to assist businesses, and it's a private activity revenue bond where the city is kind of a pass-through for people to obtain some tax-exempt financing to make it more attractive to buyers. So just different things the EDA is working on. No action items for you tonight on their behalf.
Questions?
Sorry, I went kind of fast there.
Oh, that's fine. Okay, no questions or anything? Thank you. Moving on to our action items. 7A, approve resolution 2015-68, adopting final assessments, Center Street. We've got some discussion on how we want to go about handling this.
Yeah, you have the 3 different items, and for Mr. Mossman here, I'll just kind of read what our policy says regarding corner lots, so you can kind of refer to the policy. Keep in mind that his property is zoned RC, which is kind of a hybrid that was created in 2006 when they redid the zoning map to kind of take care of those residential properties that are stuck in the middle of a commercial zone or commercial that's stuck in the middle of a residential zone. What it states on residentially zoned corner lots, a front footage will be assessed to the short side. 150-foot side lot allowance credit will apply along the adjacent longer side. Any footage beyond 150 feet will constitute an additional assessment. That's what he's asking for to be considered residential. The justification for the commercial, according to our policy, it says, no allowance relief will be granted because of the higher inherent property value associated with improved traffic frontage and greater visibility along business district and industrial park intersections. So it says the adjusted front footage will be the entire frontage. You can kind of see the reasoning that they had why commercial didn't get the 150-foot credit. Now, his calculation is if it was commercial, because the area itself is inherently commercial, but the city council, I think, would be justified if they so chose to give the residential credit because he is that hybrid district. So if you do that, though, the decision you need to make is the part that he gets the credit for, does that just go to the city, or does that get put back into the mix and get redistributed to everybody else? So those are kind of the two things. Do I give him the credit? And if I do, where does the money come from? So that's the first one that you have, and I don't know if you want to deal with that one first and then talk about Mr. Tomsky?
I'd like to.
Okay.
Just do one at a time so we don't get confused with the answer. Basically, the way I look at it is an RC district, it's residential or commercial. You can have your house in a commercial district, but it's still considered a residential homestead. So for me, it would only make sense that we'd consider it residential. You know, you look at RC, it does have the slash. It's either residential or it's commercial, but it's in the same area. So to me, granting the 150 feet free would only be right. And considering, you know, the overrun on some of these assessments already, to take that difference of that 150 feet and split it up amongst the other property owners on that street isn't going to help the situation with the overruns. So I'll open it up to the council, that's kind of where I'm leaning as far as personally on what I think we should do. Anyone got any comments or questions? Or think otherwise?
I agree. It's a residential property. It should be treated like a residential property. As far as where the assessments go, I'm inclined to think that, yeah, we got a lot of money there already. And I know we have a stormwater utility assessment all over this city. And it was always my feeling that that was basically what it was for stormwater. Mm-hmm. And this is stormwater. It seems like the city should be able to take care of that. I know we're going to be looking at the amount that we charge anyway. And this is just one of those things we can account for.
Okay. Anyone else got any comments?
Nope, that's my feelings too. You know, if it's, a lot of times the commercial aspect will creep up on you too. A lot of people move into a residential area and all of a sudden it's a residential commercial, and I don't know if that's the case here, but it should be treated as a residential.
You know, I know that house has been up there a long time before anything else really moved in around it, and maybe where that zoning came in, so as far as being grandfathered in, I would almost think that would only be right. Do we want to do general consent on that part, or do we want to make a motion that that's how we look at this when we come to the actually passing the actual resolution?
I will make a motion that we treat it as a residential district and give them the credit.
Okay.
My motion is not going to include how it's paid for. I think we're going to be discussing the actual assessments later on, and I think we'll lump it in with that.
Okay, we have a motion by Dave.
I'll second that.
A second by Heidi. Everyone understand the motion? Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4 in favor, none against. Now we will move on to the second part of it, the stormwater easement for fleet supply.
As you know, when we went through this project and Beltline as well, there was a lot of negotiations on purchasing stormwater easements. And so as we worked with Mr. Tomsky, back up just a second, I think he also talked about extending the pipe, and that had to do with along Center Street. We extended it out and made the ditch better there. But as relative to the stormwater easement itself, when we made our final agreement that this is the price that we'll pay for the stormwater easement, he made that, and in writing told me that he would accept that amount for the stormwater easement if this is what his assessment was, and he wouldn't challenge that assessment, that preliminary amount that he was told. So that was kind of where we're at. We kind of had a deal that this is your assessment, you won't challenge your assessment if it's that amount, and you'll accept this payment for the easement. So that was kind of the contract that we had at that time. And so that's kind of why this one is before you tonight, because with the added cost for the project and everything, his assessment went up, but yet he acted in reliance on that preliminary assessment when we made the agreement of how much we had to pay for the stormwater utility easement. You know, whether, you know, I think that impacted that dollar amount for that easement, him knowing what his assessment was. And so that's why we're here in front of you tonight, is that when we prepared the final roll, his assessment went up, of course, because he has a big share of those extra costs, because a lot of his property drains, and it's the storm part of the project that is impacted here. So that is what a decision that you would have to make, you know, do we revert to that preliminary assessment for him acting on that contract that we had? So it's, I think it was 82.9 or like right around 83,000, and the new one is 107. So it would be that difference there is what we're talking about.
Okay, I'll go first on this one again. Basically, you know, Mr. Thompson went and negotiated with the city in good faith, signed an agreement, and if we would go against what the initial assessments would be, we're kind of not holding up our end of the bargain. And I wouldn't want it done to me, and I wouldn't exactly want to be doing it to anyone else. So to me, we basically signed an agreement saying this is pretty much what it is, and I don't think we should waver from it.
That agreement was based upon the original estimate.
Right. And because of stormwater overruns, I don't see where we can break that agreement, because the street estimates pretty much are online. So, and it also falls back to what Dave said previous, as far as stormwater assessments. You know, we've got that town-wide. That's basically, when it comes to stormwater, maybe that's where the money should be coming from, and if we need to look at it and increase it to cover these kind of overruns, that's where, well, that'll come later. I don't know, anyone else have any comments, or?
What kind of impact does taking back Bob's share of 24,000 plus Dwayne's share of 15,000, what would that mean financially to that stormwater assessment?
Well, the stormwater, you mean as far as the,
What is everybody's share looking at it from the broad spectrum?
Okay, so if you took it in the big picture of 39,000 over 10 years, so it's $3,900 a year. We generate about 160, so as a percentage, 4,000 of 160,000, that's kind of the percent of our project. So if you pay $4 for your house and it has to go up 5% to cover this cost, but it's more impactful to the commercial that pay a higher percent. But if the council says a 5% or a 2% or whatever increase on the stormwater utility, this $3,900 a year is something you'd have to keep in the back of your mind. But that's, you know, 4,000 of 160,000, that's kind of the relationship there.
on a household, individual household impact, not considering commercial, if I'm figuring my math right, you're looking at about 20 cents a month difference.
And then what about the difference between to the cost of the city from the original estimate? Because that went up like 40-some%, didn't it?
The city's portion?
The city's portion.
Well, the sewer's up
Right.
50% really.
Sewer's up,
A little over 50% on the sewer.
right.
And the city now, a lot of our portion has to do with what's coming across Beltline from up toward the arena.
Okay.
And it's all storm. So most of our impact is pretty much all storm. There's a small portion of that number 6 parcel down there that's actually for the switching station, that the public utility will be paying that street portion of it. So that'll come off of this total amount. But, yeah, that's a good chunk of change.
Those are my questions.
Okay.
You know, and if you decide to take these out and you're thinking you want to keep these in your mind as we talk about that stormwater utility, I'll make sure to bring those percentages and everything to that meeting.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. Any other questions, comments?
I just think it will, we'll have to, like Vicki said, keep that thought when we reconsider that stormwater fee talk that we have, but, $20,000, that's a relatively substantial hike over what you were told earlier, so.
Yeah, and, it's the city's credibility on whether or not we're going to stand behind stuff that we negotiate or not,
I agree.
Personally, I wouldn't agree with it, so is it the council's decision, or do I have a motion or whatever to some way?
How would you want the motion? Would you want it to revert to the original assessment value?
I think basically since he had signed with the original, saying he wouldn't appeal.
I'd be willing to make that, I'll make a motion that we assess Schmidt Farms at the original assessment rate that he agreed to.
I will second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Heidi and a second by Keith. Any other discussion? Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4 in favor, none against. That brings us to the third one. The council has the option to revert to the original estimated assessments for everybody, modify the final assessments, or adopt the final assessment.
and I think what you just did was modified 2 of them
Right.
at this point.
Right.
So,
So, everybody understands what's basically happening with that one? Okay. All right, well, with that, then we will move. Do I have a motion to approve Resolution 2015-68, adopting the final assessments for Center Street project with those changes in the assessments?
The other ones are going to get the assessments as on the final?
the final that was presented, yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I struggle with the fact that one is being treated very differently, especially in light of the stormwater situation anyway with, I don't think I've made a secret that I don't understand why, people in the city are paying for certain stormwater projects through a citywide assessment and others are expected to fall on owners who are also paying that assessment for citywide.
Right.
It seems fair to me that if we're doing it for Schmidt Farm, to revert to the original assessment, then the whole project should just revert. And we'll end up with, I don't know, $70,000 or something. I don't think it's quite that high. We'll end up with another $40,000 to deal with. That's $4,000 a year on our stormwater. That's not a lot.
So basically, it would be like to revert to the original estimated assessments for everyone on that project.
That's
what you were.
That would be my feeling.
Okay.
Treat them all the same.
But still give the corner
Yeah,
lot.
we've already settled the corner.
Okay.
Yeah. And I can agree with Dave on that. There's 2 ways of looking at it. We're treating Fleet Supply, but they signed an agreement. It's a public hearing. The rest of them all had the opportunity to be here too, and they haven't. So to me, that also tells me that they're satisfied with what they were served notice on. So is it treating them fair or not? Because they were served the same notice of what their assessments are afterwards, and they're not here to appeal, and Vicki never stated if we got any letters from anyone stating that they
No, we didn't.
were against it either. So,
Fair enough.
I kind of looked at it that same way. If you have the opportunity to speak against something, then you should be here to.
you know, both
Yep.
opinions have justification, but that's the way I had originally looked at it, is if you have a problem with the assessment that you got served and the public hearing is here, you have a chance to bring in a letter and state your case if you couldn't attend or attend. And the other parties haven't showed up. So, is there any other comments or questions? Okay, I'll be looking for a motion to approve Resolution 2015-68, adopting the final assessment for Center Street project with the changes that we made and whatever way you want the assessments to go, original, modified, or...
I will make a motion that we adopt the special assessments with the aforementioned changes noted only.
Okay, we have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Dave. Everyone understand the motion?
Just want to clarify, that means that 2 through 5 are getting the final assessments, except Dwayne is getting some credit
Correct.
for
Right.
the side street. Okay.
Yeah, and the lead supply goes back to the original.
Yep.
Yes. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Call the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4 in favor, none against. Okay, approve resolution 2015-69 adopting assessment/unpaid utility fees.
And this is the resolution that we talked about for the hazardous buildings, and the resolution has been broken into actually 2 resolutions. One for the lot mowing and the utilities at 1 year, and the one for the hazardous buildings at 5 years. And then those 2 resolutions you were given tonight. And then, of course, we have the $100 administrative fee, whether you want to consider waiving that. Some years we have not, and some years we have waived that.
Okay,
If they pay before we certify to the county. Once it goes to the county on the 15th of November, we can't get it back unless they pay 100%.
what's the council's wishes? As everybody knows, on that $100 administrative fee, ever since I've been on the council and mayor, which is on my 9th year, I've been opposed to waiving that $100 fee because to me it's taking advantage of the governmental process and using public funds by not paying their maintenance or fees without coming in and talking to us, or at least trying to make some way of handling it. You know, this is public money have spent to cover all of these costs, and then to waive $100 off of it just because they refused to pay since whenever they incurred the bill, I don't feel is right for the public to have to take care of.
Are we charging interest on the unpaid bills? I know
Yes.
there was yes, we are. Percentage and a half a month,
Yes,
I assume?
yes.
So anything that's unpaid and carried is being charged.
It carries a finance charge every month. Yeah.
So, yeah, they're not quite getting it free.
Not quite getting it free, but yet that $100, is that covering, or that 1.5%, is that covering our administrative costs for sending out bills and carrying it on the books? And I'm not necessarily seeing I don't think a financial institution would waive their fees if you come in at the last minute and catch up.
When do these get filed? When would these be filed if they were?
These are things from 2014 and then up through about May of this year.
Okay.
So these are old bills.
So if we were to vote tonight not to waive anything and they came in tomorrow and paid it off, is it too late?
They would have to pay the $100 in addition to their bill.
Right.
Right. If you adopt this tonight this way, then that's the way it is.
Okay.
Questions?
We could also agree that we're going to charge a reduced administrative fee if they pay it
Yes.
at a quick point, but not a reduced fee if it's not paid.
You could
I
do,
mean, if it goes to taxes, it's a $100 fee. If they pay it before it goes to taxes, we could charge a different fee.
yes, you could.
Do we have people that take us up on that?
Sometimes, probably maybe 10%.
10%?
Usually by the time it gets to this point, they're not planning on paying it anyway.
I was hoping you'd say 50%.
Sorry.
10%, okay.
I have
So
a
basically, you're
suspicion-
saying 1 out of the 11 on here are gonna come running.
I think the people who don't pay it probably aren't going to pay it.
Yeah, and that $100
It's rolling on
isn't
to
gonna
taxes
make
one way
any
or the other,
difference.
yep.
Right. But it's, well, with that, let's see which you want to take care of. Do I have a motion to adopt resolution number 2015-69, adopting the assessment roll for unpaid city and utility service charges?
So moved.
Is that with the 100 or without the 100?
That's with the 100.
Okay. We have a motion by Keith. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Heidi. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4 in favor, none against. Do we have a motion to approve resolution number 2015-74, adopting assessment roll for unpaid city charges? Same thing, with or without the $100?
I will make a motion that we assess those with $100.
We have a motion by Keith. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Dave. Any other questions? Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4 in favor, none against. Approve resolution 2015-70, suspending or revoking liquor license.
And on this, again, you have three options. You can revoke it, and it's gone. You could suspend operations until the insurance is in place, or you can grant them additional time to get insurance and stay in operation. And that was kind of the question you asked, what happens liability-wise? But you also have to think of a customer, if they were there and became hurt because of something. You know, you've got more than just the bar that you're looking at the population and the consumers, so that might factor into yours. But you can revoke it, you can suspend operations until it's back in place, or you can just grant them additional time to secure it, at which time they would stay open.
Okay. If we revoked it, at what time would it take effect?
We would have to probably have someone from the police department serve it to them tomorrow.
Okay.
Would a suspension be treated the same way?
We would, yeah, we would actually have them notified officially. I mean,
When were you notified that they were?
we became aware of it in August.
Well, no, that they had secured or were about to secure?
We've had a couple of different, at the last council meeting, we were told that they thought they had it together. And then we continued through the process, though, because we hadn't actually seen a certificate. And then this afternoon, they called and said they had it, they'd bring a certificate over, and they would deliver them to the council meeting tonight. But they haven't done that, so It was kind of last minute. It was this afternoon that we got the phone call. But we still haven't seen anything to verify that they have insurance.
Basically, the time frame has already been about 2 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 2 months without running without insurance, I don't know if suspension or giving them time to acquire it is an option.
Well, the city has a long history of being dragging out the process, don't they?
That doesn't
I
mean we have to stay
really
with it.
don't see why we should keep them operating without insurance. I think we know they don't have insurance. Operations need to stop. I'm willing to suspend, though. I don't think we have to revoke the license if they really are going to, come in with it tomorrow or something. But I think those operations have to be suspended until they have the insurance.
You want to put a timeline on it? Suspend it for how long? 1 week, 2 days, a month?
They said they've got it.
That's what they said.
I'd say, if they have it, they have it, but they were going to bring it tonight and they didn't. Okay, let's suspend it for now. And if they haven't brought it in by the end of the week, revoke it.
Do we have that option?
Can we revoke it without having another meeting?
No, if this meeting would, as long as we talk about it at this meeting, and they're made aware of that, and we notify them, said the city council has suspended your operations until you provide insurance. If you provide it by X date, then you're back in business. If you don't provide it by X date, it's revoked, and then you have to reapply if you want to open again.
Okay. Any other comments? Questions? Go ahead.
Did you make a motion?
I made a statement, but I will make it a motion.
Okay.
Okay.
What's your motion?
The motion then is to suspend them from operations as soon as we can get the paper served to suspend their operations and have revocation effective end of business Friday if they haven't brought in the insurance.
I will second that.
Okay. We have a motion and a second that we will suspend their license until the end of business hours on this coming Friday.
This Friday, yeah.
Which is
10/9. October 9th.
October 9th.
Oh, this is funny, yep.
October 9th.
It's October 9th,
And if not, proof hasn't been brought to us by then, we will revoke their license.
Yep.
Any other questions or concerns?
Their end of business or ours on Friday?
Ours.
You're talking
Our end
4:30
of
Friday?
business.
Okay.
Yeah. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4 in favor, none against. Approved cigarette license.
This is the application and fee has been submitted by Westside Liquor to sell cigarettes at 1227 Timberlane Drive. If you recall, we just did a liquor transfer at the last meeting. This is a new cigarette license that would allow them to sell cigarettes as well. It just requires a simple council approval.
Do I have that motion?
I'll make a motion, we approve the cigarette license for
Okay.
Westside.
We have a motion from Keith to approve the cigarette license to Westside Liquor. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Dave. Any other questions? Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4 in favor, none against. Approved seasonal employment, arena, figure skating, outdoor rink.
Last night at the Park Board meeting, the Park Board recommends that the City Council bring back all of these employees for seasonal winter employment. Keith Sorensen, ice arena attendant at the ice arena. Figure skating instructors Sarah Lino, Anna T. Shaver, Morgan Hess, and Madison Hess. And usually there's only 2 of them there, whichever one is available for that Saturday morning. And then the outdoor rink attendant is Dennis Christensen. So those are the 6 people that they are recommending that we bring back for the winter season.
And all of these have been here in the past. No one's new on this.
The only one that's new is Madison Hess, the younger sister of Morgan.
Okay.
And the hourly rates are the same as what they were last year?
The figure skating instructors are the same as last year. The ice arena and the outdoor rink are based on the Public Works contract.
Do I have a motion to approve seasonal employment for the arena, figure skating, and outdoor rink?
So moved.
We have a motion by Heidi. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Dave. Any other questions or comments? Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4 in favor, none against. Approve Resolution 2015-71, approving installation of signs.
We've received 2 requests for traffic signs. One is for handicap parking sign and one for a speed limit. The speed limit sign request is for Lakeshore Drive on the north end of the home school, which would be westbound there just on the east side, eastbound on the east side of Main Street North, and then westbound after you come off Highway 71, and you do have it in your packet. And that was a request for a 30-mile-per-hour sign. They're saying that traffic is going much faster than that. And the other handicap parking sign request is at Main and Sinclair Lewis northbound. It'd be in front of Shell's Diner, that last parking stall right in front of Shell's. The only handicap sign located on the 4 blocks approaching the Main Street is just the one by the Palmer House. That's the only one that there is. And so we did receive a request for that sign. And the council has the authority to regulate these speed on the city, not lower than 30 though, or installation of signs, I should say, and also to designate parking. So it is within your authority to do this.
Questions?
Didn't we lose a handicap spot uptown?
There used to be one by the drugstore on Sinclair Lewis.
That's the one that was,
Yeah, and when the drugstore left and they did some work on Sinclair Lewis, I think the sign just didn't end up.
Right, so this would be just right across from where it was.
This
Yeah,
right in front
pretty
of-
close.
Yeah. Okay, I was gonna ask that same question. I thought there was one on that corner, so,
Yeah,
yeah.
got ticketed there once. No, just kidding.
Any other questions, concerns? Otherwise, I'll be looking for a motion to approve Resolution 2015-71, authorizing installation of signs.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Dave. Do I have a second?
Well, second.
Second by Heidi. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4 in favor, none against. Approve Resolution 2015-72, approving purchase of mower.
According to our capital improvement plan and our budget, we've obtained a quote for the replacement of the John Deere 1600 series mower. It's actually very similar to the picture of the one that's in your packet. It's the same brand, same model number. John Deere and competitor brands were researched, and on the state bid, this John Deere mower is on the state bid, and Midwest Machinery is a vendor that can sell it to us at that price. And so staff is recommending that we stay with the John Deere mower compared to the other brands due to the available horsepower. This is a 55 horsepower machine, and a lot of the competitors don't make a front mount lawnmower that large, although Toro does have one for considerably additional price. That is not on the state bid. So the budget for the replacement is $50,000. The list price of this machine is $67,341. The government discount is $15,488.43. That discount actually expired on September 30th, but we did get an extension through tonight's meeting so that we can decide if we want to go with it. So the contract price is $51,852. They will give us a trade-in of $13,000 on our old machine for a net price of $38,852.57. And as a municipality, there is no sales tax, so that is the price. So the Park Board is recommending that we move forward with that purchase, and it is Resolution 2015-72. And Matt is the one that actually talked to the vendors if you have any questions specifically about the machine for him.
Questions? Comments? It is under what was budgeted. It's been part of our capital improvement plan, so we knew it was coming. Hearing no other questions or comments, do I have a motion to approve Resolution 2015-72 approving the purchase of the mower?
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion by Keith. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Dave. Any other questions?
That remaining money will remain in that fund, I would
Yes, it
assume.
will.
Okay.
Any other questions? Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4 in favor, none against. Approve removal of the west outdoor rink.
Down at the outdoor, at the Lions Park, you know, the city floods 2 rinks each winter. We have the east rink as a hockey rink with boards. The west rink is an older rink, which we haven't flooded for some time. And then the middle area is for free skate or figure skating. And we are recommending that the west rink be removed rather than investing substantial funds to repair that. And representatives from Eagles Healing Nest have actually asked if the city would consider allowing them to remove the boards, and then they would repurpose them in their wood shop and install as much as they can repurpose at their facilities. They'd make somewhat a smaller rink, but they would use our existing boards. The park board discussed it last night, and they are recommending that the city allow Eagles Nest to come in and take those boards out and have them repurposed at their facility. So that is the recommendation and the request tonight.
Questions? The only question I have is if Eagles Healing Nest comes in and starts tearing it out and one of them people get hurt, who's liable?
They're all covered by their insurance there.
By their insurance? Okay. Any other questions or comments? Do I have a motion to authorize removal of the boards of the west rink by Eagles Healing Nest?
So moved.
I have a motion by Heidi. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Keith. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4 in favor, none against. Unfinished business, Beltline Center Street project. That's Keith.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. As I think kind of alluded in the presentation, the project is largely finished for this year. The only major items remaining are the last lift of bituminous, which will be next end of May, early June of next year. And the county actually decided that they're not doing the final lift this year either. So that is, what you see out there is where it will be. At least I can tell, in our portions of the roadway, everything's been ramped up for snowplow purposes. So that's been complete. I know the county's doing a little bit of work on some boulevard areas that I noticed today, but pretty much it's just some punch list items and a few minor things that are remaining other than that bituminous next year. So, any questions?
Questions? Bottom of the holding ponds along Getty and Beltline,
Yeah.
those.
Those will schedule to be seeded because they really haven't been yet. And now that they've dried up, which is what I was hoping would occur eventually, and they have dried up so that we can get in there now. So that'll be an item on the punch list to get that reseeded.
This fall yet?
That would be, I will certainly strongly recommend that because otherwise they might not be able to get into it in the spring.
Right.
So, and once we get them vegetated, that vegetation will kind of suck up that excess moisture. So, it's going to be wet, obviously, when it rains, but it probably, it's not going to be a mud pit like it was. And, we need to wait till it dries. We get that grass and things growing. That'll suck up that surface moisture and it'll be in pretty good shape.
Okay.
Okay?
Any other questions? Thank you, Keith. New business items, building official contract. I guess if we could talk about all of them at once, I guess.
You just go right down the list, huh? So the building official has announced his retirement effective 12/31 of 2015. And we do have a contract with him that automatically renews, but of course he gave us his notice in advance that he does not intend to renew that contract. He has been teaming up with another licensed official for the past several years that has filled in for him when he's on vacation, and they've kind of had an agreement back and forth. He's recommending that we enter into a contract with that official. The city council has the authority to do that, or you can seek other officials. I will caution, though, what's happening in smaller cities is that they'll have a big company from the cities send out somebody like once a week. So that's, if we want to research that further, we can do that, or we can bring in this other official. We have a little bit of time here yet, not a whole lot, but we need to get moving on it, on what your thoughts are. Are you happy with the way we've been doing things? Do you want to mix it up a little bit? That's going to be up to you. Or I can send it to the Personnel Committee, can sit down and meet with him and talk with it a little bit more detail. And maybe you would come back with a recommendation. It's up to you.
Compensation the same or more or less?
The compensation is a percent of the permit, and that would be something we would negotiate with him.
Okay.
But he would be willing to come for what our percent is now.
Start with what it is now and then okay.
Yeah.
Counselor, have any other questions, or what's the wishes? I feel we should probably retain him for the interim while we investigate other avenues.
Yeah.
This is a yearly contract?
It's a yearly contract that automatically renews unless either party gives notice to terminate 60 days in advance. So.
All right, yeah, I think makes sense.
So go to the personnel committee.
Go to the personnel committee, but I think, well, if we get a recommendation quick, that's fine. I don't know if we will at this late date.
Yeah, they would have to come back with a recommendation in October then of next year, were we to, because otherwise you self-renews with.
Unless we give them notice, yeah. Yeah. So you're saying go ahead and enter into with him
Yep.
for the next year?
Yes.
And then, okay.
Cleaning service contract?
Our cleaning service contract actually it should have actually been reviewed last year after 5 years, but it's been going for 6 years now. And so we have the option of going out for bids again. We've had this cleaning contract. It's the only cleaning contract we've had because we had a janitor before that. And when he retired, we created this cleaning contract. So should it be reviewed? Should the duties be reviewed? Should we go out and solicit extra or somebody different that might express an interest, because we do get interest in it? And so I brought that to the council to see which way you want to go with that.
Council wishes, recommendations. I think it's another one of them that probably should go to personnel.
There is no contract with this, is there?
Yeah, we do have a contract.
We do have a contract.
And that's
yearly?
it. Yep, it's a yearly.
Self-renewing.
It is.
Okay.
Right.
Comments?
When is that due?
It's in the fiscal year, so December 31st is.
We have till the end of the year to decide.
But if you want to go out and investigate it more, we would just give notice that we're going to be reviewing the contract and that if we're going to think about looking at other people that might want to provide the service or review what the service all includes, now is the time to do all of that.
Have the duties changed any in the past 5 years?
I think we've added things. We've added things, we've taken things away. Some things that were in there might not necessarily be done all the time, and some are doing things that weren't in there, and so it needs to be looked at. And I can certainly have the personnel committee go over it.
What's that?
We should review it.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think
The personnel committee review it and see what's supposed to be in there, not in there.
The only thing I'm thinking, if we have time, we probably don't right now.
We do. We would have time because we just have to give notice within 60 days. So if we notice that we're going to be reviewing the contract, we're fine.
But we're past that 60-day.
No,
Well, not quite.
Not if we give notice that we're reviewing it.
November 1st is 60 days.
Right.
Yeah, we have time to give notice.
Right.
So personnel committee it is? Okay.
They're meeting tomorrow, right?
Just a couple other items is that we have several buildings that have been identified. Remember, we'd gone through that first phase of the hazardous building cleanup, and there's a few more out there. And so we will bring those to you and decide, with the city attorney, if you want to take another step and do some more, so that's just kind of in the process right now. The stormwater utility fee rate is up for review, and that will come before the board, and we'll kind of do some calculations and some numbers, so we can have that for you ahead of time, so you can do your own math if you like, and we'll look at what that impact would be to the consumers and the businesses. And also the gas franchise fee rate is up for review. And they are aware of that you'll be reviewing their fee rate, and they'll be providing some comment as well. So these are all things that are going to be happening in the next couple meetings that we'll be talking about.
Finance committee, or just letting them come here?
I would almost think with the storm utility and the gas franchises should probably go to finance.
Finance? Okay.
Finance first, and then bring back
Back to the recommendations.
recommendations and go from there. Okay, thank you. Any other questions on any of those items? All right, we will move on to the consent agenda. We have our schedule of claims, unpaid claims of $207,861.98. Paid claims of $1,054.95 for a total of $208,916.93. We have resolution number 2015-73, resolution accepting contributions, $198.41 from the men's card playing group to be allocated toward the senior center. Donation of $10,000 from Community Connections to be put toward the splash pad. Donation of $1,000 from American Legion Post number 67 to be allocated toward the ambulance. And $125 from Verizon Wireless to be allocated to the splash pad. I want to thank those groups for their contribution on behalf of the city. Also, I have a gambling application for exempt permit request from Holy Family School for a raffle on December 16th, 2015 at the Holy Family School. Is there any other questions on the schedule of claims or the consent agenda? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion by Heidi. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Dave. Any other questions? Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4 in favor, none against. Informational items, the summer rec program.
This is a summer rec year-end report that they provide to the park board, and then I pass it on to the city council. The reason they provide this report is because each year the city contributes $9,000 toward their program, and you can see that in their income description on their budget. And then also the last page there, page 51, that is the different programs that are involved in, that were at one time summer rec for the city, and it shows the participation rates all the way back to 2002 to 2015. And we are in a current agreement with the school on the $9,000, and we're in the 5th year. 2016 is the 5th year of a 5-year agreement. So sometime next summer, we'll start talking, or close to fall, we'll start talking with the school and the park board about if that agreement will continue or what it will look like if it does or doesn't. And you can see by participation rates, how it's going. Although they don't do baseball anymore, their other numbers are up. So just information at this point.
Okay. Questions on that item? Not? That brings us to the end of our agenda. Do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
I have a motion by Dave. Do I have a second?
A second.
Second by Heidi. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4 in favor, none against. Meeting adjourned.